chat feature. We will address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session. Today's webinar will focus on key aspects of biomanufacturing for climate resilient agriculture from both academia and industry. This platform aims to foster valuable insights into this critical subsector, advancing collaboration across academia and industry. We're delighted to have an esteemed panel of speakers who will share their expertise today. From DBT, we have Dr. Vaishali Punjabi, scientist at DBT, and Dr. Smita Kumari, scientist lead at the Department of Biotechnology. Academia perspective will be shared by Dr. Gopalji Jha from the Plant Microbe Interaction Lab at BRIC, National Institute of Plant Genome Research, New Delhi. And the industry perspective will be shared by Dr. Renuka Diwan, co-founder and CEO of BioPrime Agri Solutions Private Limited. Without further delay, I cordially invite Dr. Vaishali Punjabi, scientist at DBT, to set the context for today's session. Over to you, ma'am.
Namaskar and good morning to all of you. On behalf of the Department of Biotechnology and BioRec, I welcome you all to today's webinar on climate resilient agriculture under the webinar series on Bio-foundry and Biomanufacturing initiative of the Department of Biotechnology. So as you're aware, the BioE3 policy, biotechnology for economy, environment and employment, for fostering high performance biomanufacturing in the country has been formulated by the Department of Biotechnology to usher a new scientific revolution in biomanufacturing driven by regenerative principles. The policy has been approved by the Union Cabinet and released by the Honorable Minister of State Independent Charge, Ministry of Science and Technology, Dr. Jitendra Singh Ji, in August 2024. The policy aligns with Honorable Prime Minister's clarion call for lifestyle for environment, life, and Union Budget's emphasis on green growth. The interim Union Budget for 24-25 has also announced Bio-foundry and Biomanufacturing as a new initiative. Subsequently, the Union Cabinet has approved the umbrella scheme of the department, that is, Biotechnology, Research, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Development, BioRide, in September 2024. Biomanufacturing and Bio-foundry initiative is a new component under the BioRide scheme. The policy aims to set forth a framework that ensures the adoption of cutting-edge technologies and to align innovative research aimed at revolutionizing biomanufacturing processes for enhanced efficiency, sustainability and quality, while also accelerating development and production of bio-based high-value products. As the global economy continues to develop, reaching a balance between economic progression and environmental sustainability is a critical challenge for the entire world. By working through the principles of regenerative manufacturing, that is, utilizing biomass and waste resources as raw materials for the development of bio-based products, high-performance biomanufacturing can boost India's bioeconomy while safeguarding the environment and combating the climate impact. The policy will build a resilient biomanufacturing ecosystem in the country to accelerate cutting-edge innovations for the development of bio-based products. Through a series of national and interministerial consultations as well as sectoral expert meetings, 6 thematic sectors have been identified for implementation under the biomanufacturing initiative. These include bio-based chemicals and enzymes, smart proteins and functional foods, precision biotherapeutics, climate resilient agriculture, carbon capture and its utilization, and futuristic marine and space research. A strategic roadmap has been formulated for implementation of these thematic verticals, and call for inviting proposals for these verticals will be announced soon. Regulatory conclaves are also being organized to develop framework for coordinated regulatory reforms across these thematic verticals. The policy envisages setting up of bioenablers such as bio-artificial intelligence hubs, bio-foundries and biomanufacturing hubs to support innovation and scale up across the thematic verticals. Large number of proposals have been received under the call from across the country, and these are currently under evaluation by the committee. India's first biomanufacturing initiative, the National Agri-Food and Biomanufacturing Institute in Mohali, was inaugurated and dedicated to the nation in October last year. A memorandum of understanding has also been signed between DBT and ISRO for cooperation in space, biotechnology, and biomanufacturing in October 2024. Further, DBT is in discussion with the Ministry of Earth Sciences to formulate an MOU for setting up of an advanced center on marine resources in the country. Outreach activities for the Bio-E3 policy are being carried out extensively through press meets, social media platforms, editorials, and school campaigns to highlight its significance. To broadcast the activities under the Bio-foundry and Biomanufacturing Initiative, a website has also been launched. To further disseminate information about the Bio-E3 policy and discuss the thematic verticals, DBT and BIRAC have launched a webinar series on Bio-foundry and Biomanufacturing Initiative. This series features discussions by DBT, BIRAC officials, and scientists on thematic sectors, emphasizing their potential impact in India's bioeconomy. It provides a valuable platform for researchers, startups, SMEs, and industry representatives. Today's webinar, the fifth webinar in the series, focuses on climate resilient agriculture. Biomanufacturing for climate resilience in agriculture focuses on adopting sustainable practices along with technological interventions to develop bio-based agri inputs, maximize their potential, and also develop improved crop varieties with traits that will support climate adaptation and mitigation. The focus, therefore, must shift to achieving higher genetic gains with minimal environmental impact through transformative technologies. The evolving agri-tech landscape will position early adopters as key players in global food security, accelerating innovation and adoption while reshaping mindsets, fostering funding opportunities, and creating a supportive regulatory environment is therefore the key to develop bio-based solutions for building strong foundation for regenerative agriculture. Once again, I warmly welcome you to today's webinar and hope you find the discussions insightful and inspiring. Thank you very much. Kamakshi, we can't hear you.
Thank you, ma'am, for providing an excellent overview of the vision and objectives of this initiative. Our next speaker is Dr. Sumita Kumari, Scientist D at the Department of Biotechnology, who will discuss about the climate resilient agriculture subsector of biomanufacturing. Dr. Sumita, over to you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kamakshi. I hope my slides are visible to everyone.
Yes, please go ahead.
A very good morning to all the participants who are joined online. Under the webinar series on Bio-foundry and Biomanufacturing Initiative, I'll be giving an overview about one of the key sectors of Bio-E3, that is climate resilient agriculture. So we are all aware that agriculture systems globally are under tremendous threats due to climate change and extreme weather events. But when we talk about biomanufacturing for climate resilience in agriculture, it almost sounds like a misnomer because most of the agricultural outputs are always bio-based. So why do we even need biomanufacturing in climate resilient agriculture? So for that, we need to understand this, which we often overlook, that agriculture is one of the oldest industries of the world. And on one hand, being affected by climate change, it's also a huge contributor to climate change. And across the value chain from farm to fork to landfills, there are several steps across the value chain where there is a need to embed climate resilience so that the agriculture systems they are not environmental degrading, and at the same time, the products which are being generated through agriculture systems, they are generated with minimum carbon footprint. So to begin with, I would just cover this figure, which was published in a report in 2019 by Consultative Group for International Agriculture Research. So, if we talk about agriculture, it employs a quarter of the world population, generates 8 lakh crores in annual revenue, and occupies and alters over 50% of the habitable land. So, this last statistic itself should give us an idea that of all the human industries and activities, agriculture is actually one of the most critical factors which is affecting our planetary systems. So this figure here, it shows the various planetary transgressions which various anthropogenic activities are causing to our planetary system. So if we look at this area, transition between the green and yellow, this is the planetary boundary. And through various anthropogenic activities, we are actually uh, transgressing this particular boundary and affecting the planetary system detrimentally. According to the researchers' estimates, we are currently affecting or breaching 6 of these boundaries, and agriculture alone is responsible for major breaches in 4 of these categories. Agriculture is responsible for 80% of biodiversity loss, 80% of land system change, 70% of freshwater withdrawals, and 34% of global greenhouse gas emissions, including methane, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide. So, what is to be done? How biomanufacturing can help overcome these issues which are associated with agriculture system? That can only happen when we embed climate resilience, and biomanufacturing can play a key role here. So, we can stabilize yields while minimizing the carbon footprint. This could happen through smart crops and other important technologies to minimize the carbon footprint of all agricultural outputs. We also need to maximize inputs. So there are a large number of agricultural inputs which are needed for the final product. So how can we maximize inputs? We need real-time advisories, better delivery systems, and better stability of various agri inputs. We also need to transform agri inputs. How? Currently, we are using mostly chemical-based agri inputs, which are detrimental to environment through their production as well as while their application is well. So how can we go about it in transforming agri inputs? We need to take cues from the nature. We need to rewire pathways in microbes by which we can generate various bio-based agri inputs. Then an important component pertains to reducing losses. And how can we reduce losses? We need to embed resilience to stressors, which may be biotic or abiotic in nature. We need to have better shelf life of agricultural produce so that it minimizes wastage, and we also need a focus on cosmetics because many a times agriculture products are not utilized for their cosmetic reasons. For example, spotting in fruit crops or some browning in some vegetable crops. So there are certain similar traits which need to be worked upon. As per the Bioeconomy Report 2024, currently bioagri contributes 8.2% to bioeconomy share, which comes around $12.4 billion. It may seem like a small share, but bioagriculture is critical for sustainable food production, and at the end, sustenance of human or mankind depends on agriculture. And bioagriculture in India is anticipated to expand at a compound annual growth rate of 17.6%. It might, and it will reach $39.3 billion. So, to achieve these changes in agriculture systems, there are 5 pillars of sustainable agricultural system as mentioned in a report by Bloomberg NEF, which includes sustainable proteins and fats. It covers calories, production of calories with a minimum footprint. We need technologies that reduce the greenhouse gas emissions and land and water requirements. Then green agrochemicals, as I mentioned earlier, we need fertilizers and pesticides which are sourced from bio-based resources and that are less hazardous to environment. Then we need to go for sustainable intensification. How? We need to produce more using less water, less land, and less fertilizer. Then we need to go for carbon smart farming. So we need to generate farms that become carbon sinks rather than carbon emitters. Then last but not the least, we need to have recognition for the monetary value of nature and biodiversity. We need to economize it. So greater biodiversity means greater economic benefits. And how can we go about modifying these agriculture systems? There are several potential technologies which can help or which can steer biomanufacturing for climate ready regenerative agriculture. It includes synthetic biology for complex traits like photosynthesis, nitrogen fixation, carbon sequestration. We need bio-based agri inputs including microbials, botanicals, biopesticides, biostimulants, biofertilizers. Then we have disruptive gene technologies which can embed carbon sequestration, higher quality, productivity, as well as neo-domestication in plant varieties. Then we can also go for replacement food. There are agricultural inputs which are detrimental for environment, but they can be easily replaced with the bio-based solutions. For example, fragrance, coffee, bio-based silk and leather. Then the ruminants are also responsible for methane emissions and contribute significantly to carbon emissions. So dietary additives in feed and improving the fiber digestion and productivity can have an important role in mitigating these carbon emissions. Then AI and ML based tools under digital agriculture can help in pest control through automatic pest surveillance, sensing, and traceability. Then cellular farming will be another important area which includes 3D printing and farming in a laboratory setup. However, to implement these sustainable technologies, there are challenges, and these challenges include processes and production costs because they have already been optimized for optimum profitability. And when we uh, generate bio-based inputs, they need to compete with the established systems of cost and production capacities and economies of scale. And another important area is bio-based inputs. They need to be critically analyzed for their stability, on-field applications under various soil conditions, and their regulatory concerns also, because currently they are being regulated under different orders and different norms, and we need to streamline these regulatory principles. We also need specialized resources, including bioreactors, fermentation facilities, for which the Bio-foundry initiative under the Bio-E3 is already tackling these some of these issues. Then public acceptance of metabolically engineered organisms or agricultural entities is also limited due to safety apprehensions, and we need sufficient outreach activities. And DBT BIRAC should be able to address these issues in a way that it safeguards the interests of all the stakeholders, including industry, academia, farmers, and consumers. So, to achieve this, we need to have a complete overhaul from research and innovation to governance to policy landscape and public perception in order to contribute to neutral bio-based economy and lead us towards climate ready regenerative agriculture. So, this is a broad overview I wanted to cover for this particular sector. I hope uh, we would be able to have a good academic and industry perspective in the talks to come. Thank you so much for listening. Uh,
Thank you, Dr. Sumita, for touching on various aspects, including the technologies and various challenges in biomanufacturing for climate resilient agriculture. Moving on, it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Gopalji Jha from the Plant Microbe Interactions Lab at NIPGR New Delhi. Dr. Jha is a staff scientist 4 at BRIC NIPGR. His research is primarily focused on understanding molecular intricacies of plant microbe interactions and harnessing them for developing plants better adapted to biotic stressors. During his stint at NIPGR, he has been working on sheep blight disease in rice, wherein he has established that silencing of pathogenicity factors or host susceptibility genes is effective in disease control. His work on the isolation of rice associated bacterium that feeds on fungi is also well acknowledged. He is a fellow of the National Academy of Sciences and recipient of numerous prestigious awards and fellowships like the Ramchandran National Bioscience Award for Career Development and the Swarna Jayanti Fellowship, to name a few. With this, I invite Dr. Jha for his talk. Dr. Jha, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you so much. So, am I audible and is my slides visible?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, great. So, it's really a great opportunity for me. Thanks to DBT to give me this opportunity. So, I'm going to talk to you about biomanufacturing initiatives and the academic perspective of it. So, Dr. Sumita has elaborated the needs and the implications of biomanufacturing initiative. So, I will briefly touch upon that. We produce enough food, but still around 800 million people go hungry, and we are expected to produce 60% more food by 2050. And out of that, almost nowadays we are losing around one third of the food produced globally. Either it is lost or wasted. So there is a need for increasing the food productivity and ensuring the availability of the food. And another challenge is around 20 to 40% of the total loss is due to various diseases. Just I kept some of the diseases to bring you the relevance that the plant diseases are significantly affecting our food and the produce. So there is a continuous need for enhancing the crop productivity. But climate change, degrading soil health, and newer diseases are posing challenges. So how can we have sustainable agriculture? So thanks to DBT and our government, they have really come up a very nice approach of Bio E3, which is using biotechnology for economy, environment, and employment for fostering high performance biomanufacturing. To make this word simpler for the layman, how I am visualizing is it's like utilizing biological resources for economy, environment, and employment. So, in today's talk, I will briefly touch upon three major scientific approaches which we are doing to contribute to this initiative. One is time tested marker assisted molecular breeding. Second is recent development is genome editing to improve agronomic traits. And third is harnessing the plant associated microbes for sustainable agriculture. So, Dr. Sumita has briefly told you the importance of some of this. I will tell you a little bit and show you the success story so that you will visualize how these technologies are helpful for sustainable agriculture and contributing to bio-history policy of our government. So coming to marker-assisted molecular breeding, this is a time-tested approach wherein we are trying to utilize the available genetic diversity to improve agronomic traits in plants. So this is really aligned with the environmental and the biological resources we are available, and we are trying to utilize the genetic resources to improve agronomic traits. So detail how we go about it, maybe most of you are aware of it. If interested, I can talk to you later, but I will tell you how we are using it. So my lab is working on a very important fungal disease of rice. You can see the rice plants infected with this disease, and this is called seed blight disease of rice and caused by a fungal pathogen, Rhizoctonia solani. And due to this disease, almost 20 million tons of rice produced is lost globally, and people are using fungicides, and that is having environmental effects. So how to control this? So in collaboration with an ICR institute, ICR IIRR, we at NIPGR has used marker-assisted breeding to develop disease-tolerant rice lines. So we identified the disease-tolerant rice, northeast cultivar of land race of rice called the Waju Hopeg, and we crossed it with improved Samba Masuri, which is having bacterial blight resistance, but it is susceptible to seed blight. You can see the entire plant is infected. And we developed a disease tolerant rice lines that is under all India field trials. And if once we have also registered in the NBPGR, and once it is introduced to cultivation, it is going to save almost 1500 crore rupees, which we loses due to seed blight disease in rice. So this is not just a simple one mere example. Using similar technology, CCMB in collaboration with IIR has developed a bacterial blight disease resistant rice. You can see this is the susceptible rice which is totally infected with bacterial blight, but the resistant rice are completely protected. So this rice line is now grown almost all rice growing estates in the country. And similarly, NIPGR has developed two drought tolerant high yielding chickpea variety. One is Satvik, another is Advika. These chickpea varieties has been recently released by our honorable minister, and they are now available for cultivation. So to take this message simpler, by using this marker assisted technology, people have used until now we have developed more than 74 improved crop varieties, and they are being now widely used throughout the country. So coming to the second approach, wherein we are using genomic engineering to improve agronomic traits. I told you marker assisted selection is using the available diversity of the plants. But many times you don't have the available diversity. So how to now use those diversity? So thanks to technology, we have now precise tools wherein we can do engineering in the genome. We can cut the genome, stitch the genome, and develop new mutations in the genome which can be having different traits. So this is like creating variation in the genome using a modern technology called CRISPR-Cas9. The name is not important. You just take it from me that this is a tool wherein we can be able to engineer the genome. And as there is no transgene present in the genome, so this technology is now being considered as akin to natural variation. So the plants has been going under mutations throughout its evolution. So we are using technology to create genetic variation and to impart some useful traits in the crop plants. So using this technology, people have been able to make editing in the genome. For example, it can introduce deletion, insertion, and changes in the genome and can impart useful traits. For example, people have edited promoter region of a gene of rice called sweet gene. Again, name is not important. But if you edit using this technology, if you make variation in the promoter region of this gene, the plant which is ideally susceptible to infection has become tolerant to the disease. So this is that powerful. And now the technology has further evolved and it is possible to precisely edit. So if you want to make a point mutation in the genome at a precise location, it can be done. And using this precise editing, people are able to incorporate useful traits. For example, this is the rice, which is susceptible to infection, and they have edited a gene called XA5, and this precise editing of the gene render plants highly tolerant to the infection. So this is the future approach. This is the optimistic use of this technology to introduce point mutation in the genome and impart traits, which is highly beneficial. You can visualize the implication of this. So using this technology, it's not just limited to imparting disease tolerance in rice or plants. it can be used for imparting any useful traits which you can come across. So, for example, researcher at NIPGR has used editing to make mustard less pungent. You know, mustard oil is very famous, but it has pungency. So many people does not like pungent smell of the mustard oil. So our people at NIPGR has developed a genome edited mustard line, which is now less pungent and more useful. So again, this is under all India trials, and if approved, it will be available for cultivation. Similarly, researcher at IIRR, which is an ICR institute, has developed a high yielding variety of rice using genome editing. You can see this is the Samba Masuri rice, and it is late flowering, but this is genome edited rice. You can start seeing the grains coming out. So it is early maturing variety, and the yield is this is if you compare the yield, the wild type rice has lesser yield, but the edited lines have significantly higher yield. So this shows the potential of genome editing to enhance the agronomic traits in the plants. And the third point, which I wish to cover during this brief talk, is harnessing plant-associated microbes for sustainable agriculture. So I'm sure you must have been aware that there are many microbes which are associated with the plants. So these some of them are highly beneficial and they have been used for various applications. So for example, Bacillus is one of such microbes, and you can use Bacillus for as a biofungicide, as a biofertilizer, or a biopesticide. So Bacillus can be used for various green technologies for enhancing agricultural produce. So there are many such bacteria or fungi which has such property. So people have been trying to use these microbes for agriculture, but issue is till now there has been only limited adaptive usage of these microbes under this different agroclimatic region because they are not adaptable to diverse agroclimatic region. And also we don't know precisely the mode of action of these microbes. And also as large number of microbes are present in the environment, many of them compete with each other and can reduce the growth of the microbes which we are trying to introduce. So intermicrobial competition is not well studied. And also, we have been using indiscriminately various agrochemicals and fertilizers, pesticides, and things like that. They have ended up deteriorating the soil health. So overall, the growth of these microbes in the soil are being compromised. So deployment of single microbe for field application has been limited. So what people have started doing is we can use the microbial mechanisms of these properties and use it as a low-hanging fruit. So I will tell you one example from our own research. We at NIPGR had isolated a very novel bacteria which has a fungal eating property. So you know, bacteria is a tiny prokaryotic organism and fungus is a multicellular organism. So what we observed that a rice-associated bacteria, which is Mucosaria gladulii, it has an ability to forage over Rhizoctonia solanae, which I told you is the pathogen of rice. You can see this bacteria growing over the entire Rhizoctonia biomass and eventually foraging over it. So we have been studying the mechanism by which the bacteria can forage over the fungi, and we isolated a protein from this bacterium, which is propastale-like protein, and shown that this protein is important for fungal eating property of the bacterium. So if you are interested, you can go through this paper. But what I am trying to emphasize is that this protein is very, very effective in controlling fungus. So we have patent protected variant of this protein, which is effective in controlling the fungal growth. So this is the buffer treated Rhizoctonia. You can see the fungus has grown and made the secondary spores, but this protein treated fungus is completely killed. So this shows that this protein can be used for controlling the fungal infection. So now we can use this protein as an antifungal spray. You can see this is the buffer treated and infected with Rhizoctonia solanae. You can see the disease, but this is the protein treated rice and disease is significantly compromised. So this shows this protein can be used as an antifungal spray. Another approach which we have is we can use this protein as a transgene. But as Dr. Sumita has said, there are some concerns for the adaptability of the GMO. So people are not yet adapting to this GMO, but the technology can be used to develop plants it's not just rice. We can use the same technology to impart disease resistance in various crops like rice, tomato, chickpea, wheat, and things like that. So now the take-home message is that we can use this protein for antifungal controls. But challenges is that we should have ability to bulk produce it. So again, thanks to Bio-foundry initiative of our DVT, we are trying to develop such facility so that can enable upscaling of such technology which is available in the lab. But so that has to come yet. So what we try to do is we identify the small peptide of this protein that can be chemically synthesized, and now that peptide itself is able to control the fungal infection. So what we are trying to use now, that peptide which can be chemically synthesized and can, you don't need to bulk produce in the lab, you can chemically synthesize, but this is coming from the biological source, so it can be used as a biopesticide. So now, how to deliver these proteins or peptide in the plant? So sufficient research is going on to develop various formulation technologies which can help us for slow release, sustained release, and enhanced stability. So people are using nano formulation to encapsulate this protein or the peptide and polymer coating so that it can be spread to the plants, and it will be available for longer time, and it will be slowly and sustained release so that it will have enhanced self-stability. And there are regulatory guidelines which need to be formulated. So I'm sure DBT is working on it, and soon we'll have guidelines set up for adopting and promoting the use of this technology for benefits of us. So another approach is now microbiome. So I told you the example of one bacteria which can be that helpful to give such potent antifungal molecules. Now imagine plant is full of microbes. So they are microbes in the rhizosphere, they are microbes in the endosphere and things like that. So they have been growing together in the ecosystem. So plant recruit microbes, microbes helps the benefit of the plant. So the take-home message is there is huge diversity of the microbes which is there, and that remains to be not well explored. So again, this is the biological resources which is available, and they have, imagine our genomes are what we take it from birth. So it is, we cannot change our genome, but we acquire microbes from the environment. As we grow, we acquire the microbes. So the microbes are considered as the extended genome of the organism, and they provide lots of diversity and adaptability. So it enhances the coding potential of our genome. So people have now, there is a sufficient increments and promotion to adopt microbes for sustainable agriculture. So I will briefly tell you how we are now going it. I told you there are limitations of single microbes. So what people are trying to do is develop community of the microbes. They call it syncom, synthetic community. So through research, we try to identify the plant, the microbes which is recruited by the plant, so that they can be stable microbes. And then using artificial intelligence, machine learning, and microbiome-based approach, we can identify keystone species as well as the hub microbes that recruits and serve the beneficial microbiome community in the plant. Imagine there are lots of microbes, billions of microbes in the soil, and most of them are not beneficial. Many of them are beneficial. Some of them are harmful and things like that. So if we can recruit the beneficial microbiome community and develop design synthetic community of microbes, which can be developed based upon the microbes interaction studies. So this synthetic community can be now adaptable and can be available for promoting various good traits into the plant. For example, this is the tomato plants growing under without any treatment. You can see the plant growth is limited, but the tomato treated with this synthetic community has profuse growth. So this signifies how this synthetic community of microbes is being helpful in our agriculture. So also this approach can be enriched to engineer the microbial diversity in the soil. I told you in the beginning, due to excessive use of agrochemicals, we are losing microbes. So we can now be able to engineer back and give to the nature by enhancing the microbial diversity in the microbes. And also we can bring microbes that can help in remediation into agriculture. So these microbes can help enhance the fertility of the soil and enrich the microbial diversity. So to summarize the microbial approaches, what we are now doing is we are using metagenomics associated guided isolation and identification of beneficial microbes. So this has two benefits, two arm of it. One arm of it, we can directly go to extraction of novel enzymes and secondary metabolites, and then use it for upscaling and industrial application for using biofuel, bioplastic, probiotics, antibiotics, biorefinery, biosurfactant. And the another half, we can directly make them use in making synthetic community of the microbes and test it whether they are persistent. So we'll eventually choose the persistent synthetic community of the microbes and intend to use them in sustainable agriculture. So these microbes will have various beneficial activity. They enhances plant growth. They enhances they can be used as biocontrol, biofertilizer, biopesticide, and also they use in nutrient recycling and bioremediation. So these approaches are now being used as a cutting edge technology to help sustainable agriculture. And another approach is now we can engineer microbes using genome editing tools and things like that. Again, suitable guidelines has to be formulated, and DBT is working to develop such guidelines to help enable strain engineering of the microbes so that they can be better suited for agriculture. So with this, I will close my talk and will be happy to take the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jha, for providing an excellent overview of the subsector encompassing technologies like marker-associated breeding and genome editing for improving agronomic traits, as well as harnessing plant-associated microbiome for sustainable agriculture. Now I would like to invite Dr. Renuka Diwan, co-founder and CEO of BioPrime Agri Solutions, a pioneering agri-biotech company revolutionizing sustainable agriculture with cutting-edge biologicals. With over 25 years of experience in plant biotechnology and product innovation, she has been instrumental in developing BioPrime's proprietary SNP-R and BioNexus platform, which drives the company's portfolio of climate-resilient biologicals, biostimulants, and crop protection solutions. Dr. Renuka Diwan's visionary leadership continues to drive BioPrime's mission to transform global agriculture through sustainable science-backed innovations. With this, I invite Dr. Diwan for her talk. Over to you, Dr. Diwan.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak in this webinar. It's a very important aspect that we are discussing today, which is biomanufacturing for climate resilient agriculture. And first of all, I'd like to start with, giving a kudos to the government for establishing such an initiative, which is extremely important to establish India as a biomanufacturing hub and propel biotechnology-led innovations in the country. So it comes at a very opportune time as well, as a lot of startups in agriculture around biotechnology have been gaining momentum, which will provide a very needed platform for startups like ours to develop, innovate, and scale technologies in India, made in India, but for the world. So I would like to take forward from actually the discussion that both the scientist, Dr. Smita, as well as Dr. Gopalji have done, and established how academics as well as research intensive initiatives lead to betterment in agriculture. So once we have developed that platform, how is it that we go and scale these technologies to an industrial level? I'll be speaking about those initiatives today. So before we get into what is happening in India, if we look at the global diversity of biomanufacturing sectors, we will find that agriculture occupies a very small space in this entire sector, even globally. So it's not just in India, but even globally, very small initiatives and very small attention has been given to these sectors, though it has a capacity to, have a very large scale impact. The next is if we look at global biomanufacturing hubs, we see a lot of concentration in the US and the European segment. So these are segments where we will see that
CMO or producers exist. So for once a technology has been developed, the technology can be taken to these facilities where these units can provide as a pilot scale or as a commercial scale manufacturing facility. And we see very limited opportunities in the entire Asia Pacific. We're not only talking about India, but in the entire Asia Pacific, there is a lot of wide gap that is available, and establishing such facilities in India could propel not just Indian technologies but the Asia Pacific technologies and establish India as a global manufacturing hub. Out of all these manufacturing facilities, if we see the distribution of what these manufacturing facilities are being used for, there is no surprise here that a lot of that get used for pharmaceutical or nutraceutical kind of applications. Very small focus has been there on manufacturing related to agriculture. So there's a very large scope that exists globally as well. If we just concentrate on fermentation, which is one of the largest used technologies for biomanufacturing, just wanted to kind of show what is the difference. So there are about 75 such facilities in US, about 80 odd facilities in Europe, and we have about in the entire Asia Pacific we have about 27 such facilities. If we break that down over the scale of those facilities, we find that there is very small facilities of very large scale, that is commercial scale production. So commercial scale production facilities are still very lacking, and this is something that through the BioE program we hope to see in India, where we have pilot scale as well as commercial scale facilities that industry as well as startups like us could leverage. If we look at the needs, and I'm talking from experience as a startup, we work in biomolecules as well as micro production. Both of our ingredients are used in biostimulant, fertilizer additives, nutrient use efficiencies, biocontrols, bioinsecticide, biopesticide, all those kind of domains. And the raw material for this is biomolecules that are derived from either plants, plant extracts, or they're derived from microbial or microbial bioproducts. And so this forms as a basis for a large number of applications in agriculture for us or for companies like us. And for that to scale, once we have the initial research done, once we have initial biomolecules identified, once we have initial microbes or microbial communities identified, the next step for us is to scale the production systems. And here basically what we require is a consistent and scalable production systems, which could be plug and play model. So controlled fermentation, bioprocessing technologies, which could be batch to batch or which could be continuous, scalable systems that could be deployed for both microbial as well as metabolite production. And ideally, these systems are modular or flexible so that each industry or each technology can integrate it in their manufacturing process as the market demands or as the product demands. But once we're talking about this, the second aspect that is very fundamental to the scale of production is raw material and the standardizing and sourcing of these raw material. So, reliable tracing of raw material sources has to be done. Today, in the agriculture, microbial strains, seaweeds are very widely used, and probably seaweed based biostimulants is one of the fastest growing segments in the entire agri input segment. But benchmarking, traceability, consistency, quality, batch to batch stability of these raw materials is not done. And even at a global scale, there is no unified benchmarking system. And it would be very helpful for such systems to emerge so that the quality and the transparency around the formulation can be put down, can be put forth for the farmers, and the farmers actually know what they are, getting. This requires end-to-end partnerships because it is not possible for a company, a single company, to do all these things. So when you're talking to sourcing partners, these partnerships from the sourcing partners, from the cultivators, and having policies around the quality of the raw material and communicating those policies around raw material and benchmarks for those raw materials to the sources is very important. The next step, once we have all of this established, is the process optimization and yield enhancement, because at the end of the day, uh, there's an X amount of cost associated to producing the raw material, and it can be sold only at a Y cost. Considering that we are dealing with agriculture, especially in India, we have a lot of price sensitivity. Therefore, process optimizations is extremely important from an industry perspective. The scalability, the reproducibility of these processes is also extremely important when it comes to commercialization of the products from biomanufacturing. What kind of technologies do we require, or what kind of setups do we require for this? Precision fermentation, solid state fermentation, along with a very robust downstream processing technologies for maybe puration, filtration, drying, pelleting, so that these products can then be commercialized. A lot of emphasis is now given on encapsulation technologies as well, because it gives rise to better formulations, better stability of the active ingredients, and so an integrated place where the biomanufacturing facility is also integrated with a downstream facility would give an end-to-end solution for industries. While doing all of this, what are some of the challenges that we ourselves also have faced is adjusting the formulation for scalability. So, what works at a lab level, what works at a pilot level, may not necessarily work at a 10,000 liter, may not work at a 10x that scale. And so, adjusting the formulation there has to be a place where the formulations can be adjusted, can be benchmarked according to this. The second very important aspect is choosing the right kind of equipment for the scale up, and handling of that at scale is also very important. So, attention to detail on formulation, scalability, equipment at very initial stages is required. Otherwise, entire effort that is laid down in terms of doing the translational research, that what works at lab and how do we make it work at a large scale, all of that goes down the drain. um, a lot of diagnostics have to be in place to make sure that the scaling up, the continuous production of your product can be done properly. And along with benchmarks, cleaning and sterilization needs. So, right now, if you look at the guidelines also in terms of manufacturing and commercialization of all of these, which is bio fertilizers, bioinsecticides, and pesticides, these kind of requirements are very loosely defined. So, if we want to emerge as a global player, these requirements around cleaning, sterilization, lab quality, production have to be very carefully laid down, and gold standards for this must be laid down very properly. Now we talked about challenges, so it's pertinent that we talk about strategies for success. So while we focus on areas that could be troublesome, there are ways to focus on and build for optimization in the path of commercialization itself. So having analytical models very early on help optimize the scale up process. Having a strategy of quality by design in terms of what is the end product and prioritizing the performance attributes of that product while you do the scale up is a very good way to make sure that at large scale the product does not fail. a scale up versus a scale out approach could be very instrumental because it may not be possible to have very large capacity of biomanufacturing units, and therefore small in tandem facilities of biomanufacturing units or fermenters could help scale this in a much better way. The cost effectiveness also of this is much better versus a very scaled out, a very scaled up approach. At the end of the day, there needs to be flexibility in scaling these parameters, which can take into account the market dynamics. So, investment into versatile facilities and versatile manufacturing platforms is something that can enable the industries or the startups to make sure that they are market ready and they are ready to face the seasonal variation. They're ready to face the demands that come from the market, which could be just in time production or which could be scaling the production fast as per the market demands. Now, what will enable such kind of facilities? Obviously, we all have been talking about infrastructure and the facilities. Dr. Gopalji has been talking about the regulatory support as well for different technologies as they emerge. And a very forward looking regulatory framework is required so that these products can be commercialized faster and bought into the market faster. A standardization around testing protocols for these new technologies is also required. So, validation of these technologies, how do we validate the new technologies that can be benchmarked across the globe? So, standardization around that is also very required. Very early on, it was already announced that financial support, a call for different kind of applications is already being announced, but incentives to establish these pilot facilities or subsidies towards establishing these pilot facilities could go a long way in making sure that whatever is discovered gets commercialized in a much faster way. At the end of the day, collaborations, industry academia collaborations, public private partnerships, all of that would go a long way in terms of making sure that the research can reach the market in the most efficient manner. And the last but not least is to run all of this, we require skilled workforce. We require people, we require agriculture, we require biotechnology graduates who are able to handle all of these processes. And as an industry, I cannot stress more on this point that there's a dearth of good quality workforce, especially in India. So, training workshops, common training workshops that can help the graduates train according to industry requirements would be very helpful. So that's all I had to say from the perspective of industry. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Dhiban, for providing an excellent overview of the subsector from the industry perspective. We now open the floor for questions from the audience. Please type your questions in the chat box, and our moderator team from DBT and BIRAC will assist in facilitating the discussion. Over to you, please.
Thank you, Dr. Kamakshi. The first question is for Dr. Renuka from Pankaj. What specific roles can the private sector play in advancing climate resilient agricultural practices, and what are its economic benefits for the farmers?
Thank you, Doctor. So I think as a private organization, a lot of see at the end of the day, what is commercially successful we will be able to take those technologies and make sure that they have better penetration. So doing translational research, there's excellent research that for example, right now, even Dr. Gopalji presented. But how, as a private entity, can we join forces with such scientists, take that research, make sure that we put in our work in scaling up those technologies? There is no need to reinvent wheels. So, how can we make sure that the research from these institutes can be verified, can be scaled up, can be demonstrated on a larger scale, and then taken up for product development. I think as industry we could look at more deeper, meaningful conversations with academia, uh, and make sure that more advanced technologies are verified, are validated, and reach to the farmers faster. And at the end of the day, I think if it's a win for the farmer, if it's a win in terms of him able to increase his productivity, increase his profitability, it's a win for the industry, and ultimately it's a win for the academia, and essentially the success of this entire Bio-foundry that we're talking about today.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is for Dr. Jha. Dipankar is asking what metrics can be used to assess the effectiveness of climate resilient agriculture in improving food security and reducing poverty.
See, actually, the metrics I'm not sure, but the idea is that we have to really improve the productivity and reduce the yield losses. So there are two hand to hands aspect of sustainable agriculture. So I think we should try to do both, and their bio-free policy is to support both of them. So we have to one hand enhance the productivity. Second hand, we have to impart climate resilience to reduce the yield losses. So that's the idea.
Next question is for Dr. Renuka from Satyaprakash. In what ways can food processing companies influence the adoption of climate resilient practices throughout their supply chain?
I hope that I'm interpreting the question right. So I hope that we're talking about companies like, let's say, ITC or PepsiCo who are involved in supply chain that is aggregating from the farmer or taking the produce from the farmer and ultimately processing it and giving to the consumers. So I'll give two examples here actually from our own experience. So we work with ITC in chili, soybean, potato, and where we've been, our primary focus has been climate mitigation and productivity for the farmers. So we've deployed our biologicals in those regions, and we've seen that by integration of these technologies uh, through the platforms of ITC. The farmers or the FPOs that are associated with ITC were able to apply the product, develop understanding of high-end technologies, use them accurately, correctly, and we were able to mitigate some of the climate vagaries that we saw in the last 1 year. Their productivity rose by 15 to 20% in chilies, 15 to 20% in soybean, and about 10 to 12% in potato. So obviously, in terms of the ROI or the increase in production, they were better suited. Another example I can give is we work with another large company in tea. And really wanted to talk about tea because this year we saw extreme high temperatures leading to tip burning, or the tip that is harvested was completely burned off in tea. Reports suggest that incidents alone caused 12% yield loss in tea. Tea, as you know, was already struggling in India. And then when monsoon came, there was such high rainfall that the same tea gardens were flooded. So the total impact that was estimated on tea was 20% yield loss. And there, where we had deployed our solutions, we were able to mitigate both the unseasonal rains as well as the high temperature conditions and ensure that the productivity remained on the constant high for the farmer. So we were able to mitigate all the 20% yield loss wherever the tea gardens were, seeing that. So, just sharing what I know from my experiences, but there could be many more such examples. And I think companies like large companies like these who have very large footprints can actually help in wider adoption of technologies and ensuring that we get faster penetration. So they have a very vital role to play.
Thank you, ma'am. There's another question for you. Um, once, ma'am. Uh, so, Manoj Saxena ji is asking, do you see value in the analytical systems that can evaluate, say, hundreds of constructs for protein production for validating best conditions that can be upscaled?
Sorry, who is this question for?
It is for you, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's definitely extremely valuable. Um, the faster that we can scale the constructs in a more efficient way, the better we are able to take them to the market. In the sense that if we have a screening process which can screen the constructs before you want to deploy them, and you are able to select those constructs and for lack of a better word, I would say like a high throughput screening system where you can narrow down several hundred constructs to 10, 20. That actually plays a very important part. So the basis of high throughput system is that you start with large number of constructs. Um, which gives you a hit, which is a yes or no. That does that have the required does it qualify the required parameter that you're looking for? It's a simple yes or no. But once you have that yes or no, you can eliminate all the no's and focus on the yes. The next part is validation, which is actually validating the hits that you have had and validating the hits that you have for its efficacy, for its stability and for its production. So once you are able to do that, you can very easily narrow down to just 20 or 30 that you can evaluate on a deeper, much better way. It cuts down not just the time of screening or getting to better leads, but it cuts down the cost also, reduces the risk of failure also. So, most definite yes to that answer.
Next question is
Dr. Gopal ji,
Is
you
there you
want
wanted
to
to end? Dr. Shah.
Okay, great. So actually, so as this question was quite pertinent, and it is the need of the hour because due to lots of AI ML and lots of this uh, protein modeling and things like that, the structural biology and synthetic biology, we have now tools wherein we can be able to design lots of variation. So we need to test them in one go. So robotic system to upper scale and testing is really the need of the hour. Thank you.
Next question is from Divya to Dr. Jha. What challenges do farmers face when adopting climate resilient agricultural practices, and how can these challenges be addressed?
So that's really a very good question. So see, we are used to this chemical-based farming where we use lots of chemicals, agrochemicals, and we really see in a very short span increase in plant height, productivity, and things like that. So the apparent benefit seems more in agrochemicals and things like that. But when we try to adopt this sustainable agriculture like microbes-based promotion of the yield and things like that, the 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 scale up the yield enhancement and all it takes time because the microbes has to really acclimatize there, grow there. the farmer gets worried that whether they will get the required benefit or not. So they start trying to use chemicals and then eventually kill the microbes. So this is a major challenge. So we have to really work closely with the farmers and show them and tell them this is the technology, this is the benefit of the technology. It can be slow, but certainly it's going to help us in long run. So it can help us to adapt to the modern technological advancement. So this is the challenge and the opportunity. We need to work closely with the farmers. So as Dr. Renuka said, there should be close interaction between academia and the industries. And I think there should be close interaction with the farmer also, because this loop has to work together to really contribute at the ground level. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. This next question is again for Dr. Renuka. Ma'am, Ashok is asking, in what ways can agroforestry practices improve soil health and biodiversity while supporting climate resilience in Indian farming systems?
Thank you. Um, I think Dr. Gopalji in his presentation said very categorically how much we have suffered due to, in terms of the loss to microbes or the biodiversity due to intensive agriculture. In fact, for one of the major challenges in agriculture remains plants' inability to communicate and function with microbes despite us adding them into the soil. So today soil health, salinity, persistence of chemicals in the soil remains one of the major issues in agriculture. So soil restoration is something that soil health is also something that the government also is very passionately and actively talking about, voicing, putting a lot of efforts behind educating people on soil health. So soil health is something that is going to be very important, not just in terms of uh, climate change, but also in terms of economics. So we've been talking about carbon and carbon credits. So I think agroforestry related carbon credits is something that are the most acceptable in the world. So restoration of the soil through agroforestry, carbon capture through agroforestry can not just be used as a mechanism to better the environment, but can also be very impactful in terms of adding additional revenue for the farmers, or adding additional means or revenue streams as well. So, what works better for the environment as well as the soil, as well as from the monetary perspective, is something that would be much widely acceptable. So I feel that agroforestry um, focus on soil health, focus on soil carbon capture, uh, a very transparent method to evaluate the soil carbon capture, and there are a lot of startups that are evolving in India also on soil carbon capture and methodologies or projects to monitor this and therefore incentivize this is something that we will see gaining popularity in the next decade to come.
Thank you, Dr. Devan and Dr. Jha, for answering the questions. Now, Dr. Kamakshi, over to you.
As we come to the close of this insightful webinar, I extend a heartfelt thanks to all the speakers for their valuable contributions. Your insights have shed light on the immense potential of the subsector biomanufacturing for climate resilient agriculture towards achieving sustainable and green growth in India. For those unable to attend live, the webinar recording will soon be made available on the DBT and BIRAC websites. Please also mark your calendars for our next webinar in this series, which will continue to explore various thematic areas of the Bio-foundry and biomanufacturing initiative. The details for these will soon be shared on the DBT and BIRAC websites. and also through various social media platforms. Thank you all once again to all our speakers, participants, and the organizing team for making this event a success. We look forward to your continued engagement in the upcoming sessions. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.